Welcome back to Pet Sitter Confessional. Today, we're brought to you by Time to Pet and the Peaceful Pet Music, Calm Music for Pets YouTube channel. What does resiliency mean to you? Abagail Giordano, owner of Pack Pals New York, rejoins the show to discuss how she has spent the last year building resiliency into her business, through her policies, procedures, through her hiring, and through building and designing a business that actually is resilient through the kind of clients and services that offer, to how this helps not just in the short term, but also in the long-term life of her business. Let's get started.
Hi, and thank you for having me. I've been a huge fan for years, and it's so incredible to be a part of this amazing resource that you offer our community. I talked with you all about a year ago, and we had a podcast about my weird journey with pet care. I worked for a business for the past 5 years, and about 2 years ago almost, I took over ownership of that. So we've had a lot to talk about transitionally, and as we so have it, we've got a lot to talk about transitionally today.
We do. And so your journey into pet care was really about kind of finding things that filled you and that connected with kind of your mission and who you were personally. How has this last year been as you've continued to do that? And now kind of, do you feel like you're finally catching your stride in the business at all?
I do feel like I'm finally catching my stride, and I feel like that mission and mantra of wanting to do things that make me happy and growing as a person. And we've only continued to deep dive in that as we've hit a little bit of rhythm and a little bit of stride. It's all feeling like the chips have fallen where they're supposed to. And from there, we're building, and it's a great feeling.
Now, what does that mean to do it, to be making a deep dive into those things? How does that work out in your business with your staff and with your clients?
Well, it's weird. Business is business, but a lot of my business has been soul searching. And by that, I mean posing my business around the way I want my life to be, the way I want those who work with me, the way I want their work-life balance to be, the way we interact with clients. It's all very personal. It's personal preference, if you will. And I try to take the personal very seriously with that to create a very sustainable and happy environment, if you will, one that works as well for my clients as it does for me. We're in the customer service industry, but I have to kind of serve myself first with this. Otherwise, we can't be good for anyone else.
Well, you just said business is business, and a lot of my business is soul searching. And I love that connection of going, my business is a personal business. It's my business, and I'm going to be personal about this. I'm going to make sure that my staff are connected with the business in a personal way and that they're being fed personally through some aspects of the business. Obviously, we can't be entirely fulfilling to them in their personal aspects, and that's not really our role, but we can help in some capacity. And that starts with us and making sure that the business is serving us and is in alignment with our beliefs that are going to make us happy and help us live a fulfilling life as well. And that a lot of times I feel like I can swing between only focusing on personal, and then the business is completely separate over here and locked away from everything happening in personal life, and just the realization and being reminded that it's not like it really does flow between them pretty easily, which is both a good and dangerous thing.
Yeah, that balance, and I hate to overuse the word balance, but that balance is really hard to find. And there is an ebb and flow. It does lean more one way and more the other, in certain seasons. But if you find yourself way down the personal aspect of it, or way down the business, money focused, organizational focused aspect of it, the other starts to fall and falter. It's hard to keep up with both, but if you can really, really, really intertwine them so that every decision you're making is based wholeheartedly in both and not just, one or the other, it starts to work. Working on that part.
It does. And I think depending on how your brain's wired, I think a good place to start with that a lot of times is pricing and making sure you're meeting your personal budget and knowing that those two are interlinked now that we are independent business owners and entrepreneurs in this, and knowing, okay, my business has to feed my family, and so my prices have to be set accordingly. And then I bring on staff if I decide to do that. My prices need to be set so that I can pay them a good wage for their personal life and do their personal things. And then there's the actions and the services and how you interact with people, and you build from there and try and make that a cohesive unit, which is something that really it takes time and understanding, and obviously it can change over time too, of going, well, that's who I was 5 years ago, but now I'm different, and my business gets to be different with that too.
It is truly that way. And it makes me happy that you brought that up. That's something I see being spoken about in our community very often that I think is incredibly positive. People talking about working things backwards and deciding what you need for yourself first. Typically that conversation happens financially about pricing, like you mentioned, but that's true with almost all decisions. It's got to work for us first. So working it backwards instead of just figuring out, okay, this is what I want to offer to the client. It's got to start with us.
Yeah. And realizing like, okay, like, yeah, my clients want that service. Like my clients want adventure hikes. Do I want to provide adventure hikes?
Mm-hmm.
Is that something I would want to do? Do I want to get involved with the training and the equipment and the hassle of the drive and being gone and all this stuff? Is that really what would feed me ultimately? And understanding that just because it may make sense financially, if it doesn't make sense personally, it's not gonna stick for very long. And we're going to have a lot of not a lot of oh my gosh, my brain is just completely gone right now. Just a lot of tension in our life trying to balance those two.
I think that's super true. I think people fall into two trains of thoughts with that, or two train of thought with that. And one being, well, if I don't do it, they're going to go to someone else and someone else is going to make the money off of it and I won't. And the other train of thought being, well, if I don't do it for them, no one else will. And that's the camp that I fall into. And all you have to do is look around you and pour yourself into your community to realize that is not true. We're lucky to be in such an age where we have so many resources as pet owners and so many different options, ranging from the old school, high school neighbor next door to very professional businesses like the one I run and everything in between. And there's someone out there for every client. And I don't have to always be that person for them.
It is. You feel guilty, and especially with missions that a lot of us have of like helping pet parents live their best life possible with their friend, or helping them be better educated, or serving the pets to make their lives better. Or when we focus on that, we can feel like it suddenly becomes our obligation, our responsibility to meet that need. And if we don't, like you said, somebody else will, or it just won't be met at all. And then we get this guilt coming in from the business going, well, I guess I have to do that then to make this work, and realizing no, there's somebody else out there. Maybe you can serve them in a different way, and being okay with that.
Yeah, that is the truth. And one huge part of that for me was realizing I don't want every client.
Yeah.
And alternatively, I'm not the best fit for every client either. And getting a lot pickier about the people that you serve, and then, the dogs that follow them, and what the right fit is for you is super helpful in kind of really digging into your niche and finding your little sweet spot, if you will.
Yeah. Well, so for you, how do you go about being picky? What kind of things do you look for, or kind of cues to maybe this potential client isn't going to be a good fit?
One of the best things that I did shortly into my time here was trying to figure out, this started from a place of very, very business minded. How can I optimize my time? Where am I spending my time? And one of the things I found I was spending a lot of time on was emailing potential clients back and forth and basically kind of trying to gently dig for information and, not sound too weird, but understand their needs. And that took a lot of time. And so the best way I found to streamline that, and then also I found that could help me find who I'm looking for, was creating a new client form And the form is with Jot form, so it's a super, super easy thing to do. And it asks all type of specific questions about the dog's behavior, about the client's routine, and things of that nature. So before I even speak to them, before I reach out to them, it takes about 5 minutes on their part, but it gives me, hours of communication from them, hours of information to kind of sort through and look at and be prepared to kind of know a little bit about who I'm speaking to and the situation I'm entering before reaching out to them.
It helps streamline that a lot, and you can ask very pointed questions, and that kind of also makes it less. In one aspect, it's very beneficial when you have those intake forms because it makes it less awkward to ask some very pointed questions to clients without staring them in the face or having them on the phone and it be uncomfortable, right? And especially for us, like me, like I don't want to be confrontational, so I tend to try and sugarcoat things. But in black and white on the paper on the form, it makes it really straightforward to go, okay, I need to ask this piece of information. And then based on your answer, I can just really quickly read and go, oh, okay, there is a bite history here. Maybe that's not something I even want to approach, and I need to refer them to somebody different. And you can really process that a lot quickly. It reduces a lot of the mental fatigue as well throughout that. And also, like you said, the back and forth it just weighs on you of getting back quickly and responding and doing it in the right way and asking the right next question and stressing about the follow-up and just going, no, here's a form. If you fill it out, I kind of like to think about it for hours. It's like, if they make it through this form, that's a big step that they are potentially a good client because they have filled out many questions.
Yeah. And then you get to feel informed and empowered. Not like you've got the hand up, but you have the information you need to have an informed conversation with them, to ask the questions you need to ask, or to right off the bat disqualify them from your services. Something that really helped me form that was just viewing as many other dog walker websites as possible, seeing what type of questions they were asking, what type of ones specifically apply to my services. So for instance, we require a minimum under the strictest 3 or a 4-hour time window. And if they say anything less off the bat, and I can touch base and confirm that with them when we speak, explain why that doesn't work for us, but I've got the leg up. I found prior to that, I would find what seemed like the perfect client, let's say a 5-day week, they're at a weird time frame, I have a hard time filling, everything seems great, dog is good on leash. Oh, wait, they can't be left alone more than X hours. So if I don't arrive right on the dot, it doesn't work. We find ourselves kind of forgetting to ask the important questions. So it's nice to get the huge ones out of the way first.
Yeah, it does. And I like being able to have everything in one place because then you can form a lot better cohesive follow-up questions instead of one at a time, because when you're doing that on the phone or in person, it's a lot to sit and process and try and put those pieces of the puzzle together. So whenever you get that in that form, you have a much bigger, you can take the time to really sit and go, okay, what are these questions really telling me about this dog? And the separation anxiety. Okay, the clients aren't okay with the time windows that we have. You can deny moving forward for many reasons, because it's not, the client isn't okay with your policies, or the dog is not a good fit for your abilities and the services that you offer, or anything in between, or a combination of them is what we find a lot of times.
Yeah, we found that too. And I feel that getting all of those big things out of the way first allows me to have a more enjoyable meet and greet. Because prior to that, we used to try and ask a million questions at the meet and greet, and undoubtedly, you either end up there 2 hours going question by question, line by line, or you end up not going over a lot of important information that you really need to know ahead of time. So now my meet and greet is much more meeting as people, enjoying each other's company, getting to know what are these people like versus, running down a list of information about the dog.
Yeah, because it is awkward to go, okay, and I know it just depends on the kind of business and how you're writing it and the clients that you're working with, and forms may be people may be worried about using them because of technology issues with a lot of clients, or they're not savvy with computers or whatever. And you can walk people through that, and you that's not to say you still can't do those kind of meet and greets with that information, but just doing it going, okay, I want to do that a lot less. I think that's a good goal. I just want to do that a little bit less, 10% less, then 20% less, and then keep reducing that down. And you'll find clients really embrace that. I like giving clients the ability for them to give me as much information as possible, because that's where I find I connect with our ideal clients. Because you'll see, and it's a judgment call of going, okay, did this person not answer these very well because they're rushed? Are they busy? Are they in a hurry? Are they stressed? Or are they really annoyed they have to fill this out? Well, if they're annoyed about filling out my form, boy, howdy, my policies are going to be a whole other thing for them.
Yeah, right. Or your online scheduling system that you use, or your online billing. And I've had people do that as well. Intentionally and unintentionally, people will reach out through email or through other avenues. And, my standard response is always, wow, sounds great. Thank you so much for reaching out. Please take a moment to fill out our new client form. That way we might be able to go ahead and schedule a meet and greet together. And at that point, very rarely will they ghost you. And then you go, okay, well, that's definitely not a fit. That's self-selection. Fantastic. Yeah. Or they'll say, hey, I'm having a hard time with that. Or, whatever the answer may be. A couple of weeks ago, I had a gentleman say, I'm not very tech savvy. So I'm like, okay, let's schedule a phone call. And I called him and we just went over the questions together. No, that took a lot of extra effort, but we got a good new client out of it. And thank goodness I had the questions ahead of time instead of just giving in and showing up to a meet and greet and finding out, oh no, this isn't it.
Yeah. Well, and again, that's a great example but that's not what you're doing all the time now, right? And if it's a burden to you, it's like, okay, if I just did one of these a month, like if I could get down to that, that'd be great. Or just significantly less than where I'm doing now to save yourself that mental burden.
Yeah. I'll say since we've started implementing this, we didn't have a large problem with this before. But since we've started implementing this, we have not had a meet and greet and not followed through with the client on services. And vice versa. They've always followed through. And I find just in general, we're much more aligned, much more on the same page. We have had some clients haven't worked out with their dogs after a little bit, but not in part due to this. And it made things easier even when things didn't work out with clients, because we had a super clear expectations. They knew exactly what I was looking for. We talked about any answers that were maybe not what I was looking for regarding behavior. And it just super informative. So for instance, when we show up to a meet and greet, I've got that paper printed out to review. And one of the questions I have, it just says, please check any of the behavioral things that your dog may struggle with. And it goes, leash walking, jumping, vacuums, men with hats and beards, all of these different little behavior things, right, that dogs might have issues with. And so I can show up to the meet and greet and talk about this and say, like, okay, well, it says here that Fluffy pulls really bad. Can you tell me about that? This is what we expect when we're with them. And this is how I think we might be able to help you with it. If things don't improve with this, or they're very bad, we're falling over, we can expect that services might not work out. It helps me set expectations from the jump instead of a client being surprised of, well, why can't you take my dog because X, Y, Z? I've loved that.
Yeah, saying that I love that going, okay, well, here's our expectations for when we ask this, when we state this, here's what we expect. Here's how we would manage that. We do that with people who say that the dogs bolt outdoors. That's a question that we have. Does your dog bolt out of doors? And it's one of two responses that you get when you show up to the meet and greet and you ask those clarifying questions. And you say, hey, I noticed that you stated here that Fido likes to, bolts outdoors. Tell me about that. And then when giving them that floor, they can explain. And it's one of two responses. One, it happened when their dog was a brand new puppy and it scarred the client like permanently. Like this was a very traumatic event for them. And it's one thing that they are just hyper focused and hyper concerned about. Or it happens all the time. And the owner just wanted us to be aware not to freak out about it when it happens. And so you can take that and go, okay, like we're going to act very differently, and we're going to change how we enter, and we're going to give some recommendations for how to stage the house or where to keep the dog or how to, double barriers, all this stuff. And you can continue that conversation.
And I love either, I see the exact same thing. And I love either of the reasonings behind that, because either the client is very in tune with their dog's history and they value us having that information, which is great because we all know it can be hard to get important information out of clients. And alternatively, if that is truly what they're living with on a day to day, it encourages me that they're willing to be honest and work together on their dog. A lot of people, out of touch seems like a mean phrase, but a lot of people don't see clearly their own dog's behavior. The blinders of love.
Yeah.
So even if someone isn't attempting to, hide information from us, it can still be hard to get accurate information. Sometimes until it's too late, and you see a behavior that they didn't mention because they don't take it the same way that we do. So poignantly asking all of these specific questions, I feel like it helps dig and get rid of the room for error there.
Yeah, because they're living with it. That's the thing that we have to remember, is that it's not new or novel to them. It's their life. It just makes sense for that their dog would just occasionally tear apart things on the counter. That's just how their dog is. It's not when you say, "Does your dog have any issues?" They may say, "Oh no, of course not. Why? This is just my dog." Oh yes, and also sometimes they'll destroy the paper towel roll kind of stuff. Oh well, that's really good to know. And recognizing that we get to come in with fresh eyes, and the questions that we ask have to be phrased in such a point where they are pointed, they are exact, they are putting the clients in very specific situations or trying to help them understand the behaviors, because then we can better work with them, direct them. It changes how we may interact with them, or just go, you know what, this actually isn't going to be a good fit for us. We're going to recommend XYZ.
Yeah. And I think, like you said, asking those questions very directly is helpful. I find that in person, there's still some questions we have to go over that aren't necessarily disqualifiers that are necessary to put on our intake form, but are important to go over in person. And I love wording them as, if XYZ were to happen for your dog, would that be very abnormal, typical, or just a little weird? So for instance, we do that one with like diarrhea or accidents in the house. If I come in and there's an accident, is that very weird, or is that pretty normal? And posing questions in that way where it's like, it's acceptable. There's not a wrong answer. Just tell me the relevance of this to your dog tends to be helpful for me.
Yeah. And that helps
People
them be
get
more
defensive.
Yeah, because they do get defensive. Either they're embarrassed or they don't want to say the wrong thing, and just presenting things in a way of like, there's no wrong answer here. Your dog is your dog, and this is how you're operating. I'm just here to gather information. Right? There's not. This is not a quiz. You're not being graded. And I feel like many people feel like that, for various reasons, and just trying to present it in as neutral way as possible as you're gathering facts. It's a fact-finding mission at that point.
Well, and that's something I say on my intake form too, is there's no wrong answers here. We are just trying to make sure that we are the perfect fit for you. And if we're not, we know tons of other people, and with your permission, can use this information to help guide you towards another person who might be a better fit. So it's a perfect transition into a referral if necessary. They don't expect that because they fill out this form, we're going to show up and start walking the dog. And it also helps form a good relationship there too, even if it doesn't work out.
Have you heard of Time to Pet? They're a longtime sponsor of the podcast, and this is what Susan the Pet Gal has to say.
Time to Pet has helped us grow exponentially. We believe the platform's features make us by far more professional than other companies who use conventional dashboards. They are the software gurus, constantly developing and improving the platform based on user feedback. This decision was a good one. If
you're looking for new pet sitting software, give Time to Pet a try. Listeners of our show can save 50% off your first 3 months by visiting timetopet.com/confessional. You also, for new clients, have actually started requiring some minimum number of visits and walks a week. Can you tell us why that was something you decided to implement?
I have. So we have a minimum weekly attendance of 2 times a week, and that is for walks and for our other service that we offer, which is Pack Play. I describe Pack Play as mobile daycare or a play group. We go and pick the dogs up, take them to our location, let them play, and bring them home. So that's what that is. The primary services that we offer, those two, well, they're the only services really, but those 2 services most of them are social activity. We very rarely have private walks anymore. We've maintained some old clients who are on private walks, but don't take private walks anymore. So all of our activities are social. So it was very important to us from a social standpoint that these dogs stay in good current standing with their peers. So that everyone knows what to expect when they arrive. If a dog leaves and schedules infrequently or is ad hoc, we don't know what to expect when they come back, and neither do they. So for us, safety was number one there. But even not in regards to social activities, it makes scheduling ridiculously easier.
Oh.
So we've got all of our schedule, on a Google Doc, and we know Fido's going to be with us Monday and Tuesday between 12 and 2 every single week. So I know he always has that spot, instead of when we used to be more ad hoc and let clients schedule as needed. Sometimes that meant once a month, and sometimes that meant for the month they need 5 times a week, every week. And maintaining availability for those clients was incredibly difficult. And now we can promise availability to clients. And that helps with our income too, being able to level that out, kind of know more what to expect. We have slower seasons. We do have seasons where people cancel more, but in general, we've got much more of an average.
Well, and especially when you view your number of slots per day as an opening. And by having this minimum requirement, it's limiting the amount of potential openings that are there, which makes it a lot more predictable. You're not having to fill these with more one-offs, which means more individual clients, which means more intake forms and more training and more acknowledgement and all this stuff. And it helps reduce a lot of the variation as well, gets the dogs into that groove. When you communicated this to your existing clients, how did you go about communicating that this transition to them?
We were in a pretty good standing so we had a good set of clients who pretty much did have a recurring schedule every week. And then we had a certain amount of clients, maybe 30% or so. So we were still already doing pretty good as far as that's concerned. Maybe 30% who were still ad hoc, you sign up when they feel like it type of client. And most of them took it very well. We didn't actually lose any clients because of that. Some clients were very honest with us. We've got very few who said, hey, we're happy to sign up regularly. We can only do 1 time a week. And those clients, we allowed that. We've known their dogs forever. We know they're not a safety issue. We're good to go. And we really posed it from, hey, we want to be as available as possible for you. I hate to tell you no when you need us. So let's make a schedule that works for us so we can always be there. And with that, because we're not ad hoc based anymore, as needed based, we always have a little bit of flexibility in our schedule. And for the most part, when one of these clients does request an extra visit, we can accommodate that. Whereas before, sometimes we couldn't, and that it didn't feel good.
So you found that going this route, because of the predictable nature and how you're able to schedule this, you can actually accommodate the ad hocs a little bit easier than you were previously?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Because our schedule is set. I can look ahead and say, yes, Wednesday, 2 weeks from now at 3 p.m., I do have an opening. Whereas before, I don't know. So typically that meant saying yes and then having a crazy schedule, or you'd say no and then realize, oh, I could have done that. Yeah.
And so do you offer, when people think of offering, or requiring these kind of things, are you offering a discount on multiple bookings for that week, or is it all the same price? Doesn't matter how many times they book you?
No, same price. And my personal justification behind that. So we used to offer, if you were 5 times a week, instead of, these were old rates, but our walks were 25. And if you were 5 times a week, the walk was 20. And that was fantastic. But no one signed up for that for the discount. The people that got that, they already needed 5 times a week. We didn't do them a big favor. It didn't get clients to go 5 times a week. It just gave a benefit to those who happened to need it. And going more frequently didn't change our cost. We still needed to spend the same amount of gas, the same amount of time. It doesn't change anything for us. So I've actually been weaning those clients down over the past year. removing that discount, if you will, getting them on normal rates. And that was very hard because when I took over, I initially raised rates pretty steeply as we'd never had an increase. And so those clients who were receiving that discount have been slowly bumped up. And now their walks are $10 more than they used to be, which is huge.
Yeah.
But we haven't lost one.
Oh, that's wild. That's why, and it's important to remember about the discounts, being very careful with those, as we will get people who will ask for discounts and they'll go, well, I'll guarantee service and I'll sign whatever you want me to do, and I'll have you come out, 3 times a week for forever. And in my head, I'm going, yeah, if it's not profitable the first visit, it's not going to be profitable the 30th, right? Nothing is changing about that. So being very cautious and making sure that you know your numbers and what you're giving away, and that, because what that can lead to is you going, well, I've agreed to this, and you can start to resent that a little bit, especially whenever you feel like you need to raise prices or things aren't working out.
Oh yeah, and particularly as when you're starting out, I think that's when the appeal is highest to offer discounts. But you're not going to be starting out forever. And after a little while, you're going to find yourself busy. And you might have taken that discounted client before because you think, oh, well, if it's not them, I don't have anyone else to do that spot. It's that client or nothing. And that's simply not the truth long term. For me, if that client doesn't work out, I'm still going to have that spot available, and I'm going to fill that slot either way, if it's a permanent opening. There's no sense in attempting to convince people to use our services as if we desperately need them, because we don't. It's mutual. I need to find a client. They need to find a dog walker, but it doesn't have to be exclusive that we're the only fit for each other.
Right. So how are you finding new clients these days? What are some things that you've been thinking about or trying to reach out to potential clients?
Fortunately, a lot of what we get is word of mouth because we're pretty well established. We're not in a very small community, but we're in a tightly knit community. But prior to all of our word of mouth, some of the avenues that we really liked sharing our services on are an app called Nextdoor, which you might be familiar with. It's kind of like a neighborhood social networking app. So if we post on there and we get one client who is regular and posts on there, next time someone is in there asking for a dog walker, they'll bring up our name if they love us. And an alternative to that we also loved was local groups on Facebook. So, for instance, we service the Bethlehem area, the Bethlehem Local Moms Group, Bethlehem Local Businesses, Bethlehem Local Families Group, all of these little online Facebook groups. We found our clients were promoting our services on there before we were even part of those groups. And so when we got in them and we searched our name, we saw, oh my goodness, all of these clients are talking about us. And that made me realize we should be talking about ourselves there. So whenever we would be looking for new clients, I'd go post in there like, hey friends, we service our community here and offer these services to some other members in the group. And if you're interested, blah, 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 and do our little advertising there. And then automatically the couple of people who were our clients, if they saw it, they'd post, yes, we love them, blah, blah, blah. And that's really how we shop for things nowadays, is by recommendation of others. Even a toilet bowl cleaner, we're going to review it on Amazon and see what other people have to say. So of course, that's how we shop for services, for our home and for our family.
Yeah, we've absolutely loved the local Facebook groups for us. It's insanely powerful to be in there. And you're right, going in there, and if you're not, go join a couple. There's even if you're like, oh, I'm in a very small town, trust me, the town we live in is like 20,000 people, and I think they have almost 100 different groups for all sorts of... And that's all
the more reason to be part of them.
Yes. Yeah. It's in all sorts of niches and for different aspects and things, and some for businesses, some for just general knowledge, some for getting connected, some for selling and whatever, and just seeing what's out there already and searching your name. It's not vain. You're doing market research and seeing what pops up, and then going, you'll be surprised, going, oh, wow, people are already mentioning me. So what can I do? What can I share? What content can I be making not just the potential clients, but for my community at large?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's kind of how we search for everything. It seems so silly because, why wouldn't they just Google it? But just the other day, I posted in a group for my location of where I live, hey, who's the best local plumber? Who do you recommend? I don't know why, even though we have Google, people want to know. I want to know who did my neighbor's shrubs.
Yes.
We're nosy and we want to hear actual experiences from people we feel like we have some connection with, even if that connection is very loose. And so that's helped us a ton. That boosts your credibility, obviously your visibility within your community, and just your overall trustworthiness.
Now, did you ever consider anything like other direct marketing or mailing aspects of postcards or flyers or things like that?
I did. I went almost to completion and sending with something called Every Door Direct Mail. EDDM, I believe, is the appropriate acronym. And that's through USPS, where, the coupons that you get in the mail for the local pizza chain that have a coupon on them and tell you about that is Every Door Direct Mail. You can go through the post office and purchase small routes and select the routes that you'd like within your town or within another town to send out your flyers to. And we decided to do that, we were going to do that because you can really target specific areas. So there's a couple places that we service in our community where, you always think, hey, I'd like a couple more dogs right here. This is a good spot. And I'm at here at a good time. So you can go in and purchase. And for us, for instance, those routes were about $100 each. So you can do it very small or you can do it very large scale. And we thought that'd be a good way to target by location clients. The only reason we decided not to do that was we got a couple more clients and we found ourselves too full. So, what a blessing, right? We didn't need to do it, but I thought that'd be fun. And I really wanted to see the results of that. One of my local colleagues, owns a business, dog walking business, and has done the same thing. And she loved the results of hers. We always rationalize it. If I spend $500 on this, so that's like 2 routes and your postcards, right? If you only spend $500 on that and you get 2 long-term clients who are a couple times a week, it's worth it. If you don't get anything, it's not a giant investment and that sucks, but at least some people know your name now. So it seemed like a win-win for me, and it was for her as well.
Yeah, that's actually something that we have looked into as well, and we're kind of in the in the middle of either deciding to move forward with it or not. And because of how our businesses are set up, being extremely location specific and down to the neighborhood and next door neighbors, sometimes it really is from us and from people we've talked to about it, seemed like a great way to help optimize that, because that's what our businesses rely on, is good operations and good route planning, and something that we all kind of stress out about. So going, you know what, if I've got some really good clients over here who I know I'm going to serve for a while, or it really works out with my driving or my schedule or how things happen, if I could just get 2, 3 in that area over the course of a year, that'd be huge. And and like you said, looking at that cost benefit, going, okay, if I get these people and they book me for 2 vacations, or they book for me for 5 walks over the course of a month, like that could make a long way to paying off for that kind of investment.
Right. And so, and then, like I said, another thing about that is, and even if they don't, they know your name. I've heard it said so many times when talking about marketing that someone needs to see, it's brand recognition. Someone needs to see your brand I think it was like 3 or 4 times before they'd consider using you. It needs to be a thought in their head, a household name, if you will. And that's something that our online stuff, it being in groups and things like that, being on Nextdoor, helps with a lot, because if someone sees our name online and then, for instance, we sent those postcards and then they talked to one of their friends in person and they mentioned us, okay, we're now a very trusted resource to go reach out to, versus if they've only seen your name one time, on a flyer around town. They know of you, that's great, but they don't remember it. So being able to have brand recognition like that and see a brand multiple times helps a ton with that.
And now they have something to share, to give out to somebody, to refer back to. It's a physical, you have a physical representation of your company in that person's hand in their home. So whether, like you said, they decide to use you, or they have a friend and they go, oh goodness, I just saw that flyer. Hold on, let me go find that real quick. You have that connection, and it starts to ingrain, that brand recognition really does start to take off.
And it truly works. And if you think about the way that you use services yourself, it can help a lot when thinking about how you want to promote your services. For instance, like you said, having that physical reminder. We've got a magnet our electrician left here one time when he did a service. And now, it's not like he was bad or anything like that, but now I'll never Google for an electrician again. I'll go get my magnet on my fridge. We used to do magnets for our clients as well. And yeah, I love that.
Yeah, we do magnets as well. They're just very small. They're the size of a business card, and we leave them on the counter. I try not to just put them directly on the refrigerator and be just like leave them out for them. Right. I don't want to go back like, no, I am taking this place. Just say here's this, and we'll come back and they'll be up there, and it's a reminder, and it's a great way to just have those various touch points with your clients.
We that makes me think of, we didn't do it this past year because I was a little busy with things at the time that they offered it, but our YMCA does, our local YMCA does like family days where some businesses will come and there will be, craft setups and things like that for kids and families to run around and do. And that's a great way to get stuff like that out there is community events. I definitely encourage people to involve themselves as much as possible in that if they're trying to grow and become more recognized in their community, no matter how small. Like you mentioned, your community is so small, but that's even more reason for people to know your name because everyone talks to everyone and everyone knows everything about everyone. And you want to be one of those everyone's and everything. If your business is a go-to, even if there's other people in your community, if everyone knows there's these 2 different dog walkers, they're going to call one of you,
Yeah. And recognizing that those community events, being very realistic of going, okay, I'm going to go to this. I might not get any business or bookings from attending, but what have I done? I have made myself more prominent in the community. That's a huge win. Like that's big, and something that we need to seriously make sure that we are nurturing and being very attentive to.
Yeah, that really helps the perception and view of potential clients about our business. We talked about that last episode that we did together about making ourselves as legitimate as possible because people tend to view pet care as not a very legitimate thing. Many people view that as something you ask your neighbor to do, something you ask a middle school kid to do. And we're in here squeezing and saying, no, we're a professional business. So we've got to do everything we can to show them, yes, we really are. And I love community events for that. And like you said, getting out there in that professional manner.
A lot of pet owners don't know how to react when their beloved pet is facing a bout with anxiety, noise sensitivity, or depression. However, there are various studies that have proven that animals react very positively when calming music is played for them. So check out Peaceful Pet Music, Calm Music for Pets on YouTube, where you can actually give your clients' pets the best chance at relaxing while they're away. From peaceful melodies to soothing nature sounds, this YouTube channel is your go-to spot for your clients' pets when they are anxious and you don't know where to turn. Complete with beautiful and vibrant animations, their videos will become your home for the tools needed to keep the pets in a state of peacefulness. Be sure to subscribe at Peaceful Pet Music, Calm Music for Pets on YouTube, and hit that bell so you never miss a moment of music. Now, we started off the episode by talking about kind of where you were in a season of more transitions in your life and working on things. So, what are you planning for in the future, and what are you looking forward to in your business?
Ooh, all of this goes together. So I'm currently expecting my first child. We're due early this summer, so I just hit my 2nd trimester. The morning sickness is starting to fade, but the planning is not. It is in full swing. So we are currently getting ready for that. I'm finding that unintentionally, it's always been my goal to start a family and have this business and have a family since, being part of this business.
Mm.
And I'm finding that a lot of these policies, a lot of these procedures, a lot of things that I've implemented already, forcing so much flexibility in our scheduling with the clients and with us, and having such pretty set schedules. And by flexibility, I mean having a lot of room. For instance, I only need to go to work as of now 2 days a week. I've built our schedules so that we can combine routes whenever we need to. So if someone's sick, if someone has car trouble, we can combine our routes for the most part. And little things like that. We've got a lot of planning to do to get ready, but I'm finding, wow, I really have been building the business that's going to work for my life. It's a really good feeling.
Well, that's super exciting, and congratulations, Abigail.
Thank you.
I know that that's a very exciting time, but I'm sure it's also scary with unknowns and things. And you say you're still working on planning. Where are you focusing right now as far as trying to make sure things are all in a row?
It is. So something I've done with that is, like I said, we've got because we know our schedule every single week. Our schedule is made for the year. It's in our scheduling system. If someone wants to add on something, that's great. But our schedule's done for the entire year, and it's January still when we're recording this.
Yeah.
So now I need to make an alternate schedule of, okay, this is what the schedule will look like if I go into labor in the middle of the week. And this is what it'll look like when I'm on maternity leave. This is what it'll look like the month leading up to that, and then the month after. And because we're on recurring services, I know what that looks like. All I have to do is move things around in the chart, and figure out how they're going to work. I've got those schedules made, and we're going to do some mock trial runs and implement them. And so far, it's not very worrisome. I feel really blessed to have the setup that I do leading into this. And I think that that's why making these changes that work better for your life are so important. If I hadn't made a lot of these changes that I've made, this would be so overwhelming right now. There'd be no way to plan. I know that like the recurring schedule thing isn't for everybody, but this is like a number one, for instance, why it works for me. Family planning.
Yeah. Well, it's because whether it's having a child or it's something that comes up unexpectedly, because it's early summer, like the exact date is going to move.
Mm-hmm.
It's not set, right? So trying to just understanding like that's a fear a lot of business owners have of going, how do I plan for the unexpected? Well, the thing is, you can't, but you can prepare. You can get systems set up. You can structure your business to be more resilient to when changes come, to when unexpected things happen. And that takes time, right? It's, sounds like you've been spending this past year kind of unintentionally getting ready for this point, Yeah,
right. And I love that word that you just used about that, building resiliency in your business and in your scheduling. And that's one thing I would tell anyone, even myself, who I feel like I'm doing pretty well with that. Continue to build more flexibility with your clients. So for instance, we offer pretty much 3 time frames: 9 to 11, early bird, people who want early, 10 to 2, and that's 90% of our clients, and 1 to 3, people who want the latest slot we have available. Those slots overlap because sometimes we're going to be early or sometimes we're going to be late, but the majority of our clients have a 4-hour time frame of 10 to 2. So as I'm preparing and I'm looking at this, new schedule of what it's going to look like, or for instance, let's say something happened today, this morning, one of our girls, if they blew out a tire, I have this dog scheduled, for 10 at our earliest part of his time frame. Well, now we've got this going on. If I didn't have that time frame, I'd have to reach out, make sure that's okay, apologize, feel bad, yada, yada, yada. But now I could just move him to 1:30 or even 1:45 and we still wouldn't be late. Having that really it takes away a lot of communication and apologizing with clients and justifying what you're doing. And also it sets healthier expectations with clients as well.
Yeah, and it's less mental fatigue and burden on you. Again, going,
Mhm.
okay, well, that's fine the way that operates right now, but that's because I can be attentive to do that. Let's say, hypothetically, I don't know, going into labor or having an emergency
Mhm.
surgery or something like that, where I
Yeah.
can't reach out and say, hey, I'm sorry, we're going to be an hour late. Like now
Yeah.
you've already set that expectation, and it's not something you have to worry about anymore because it's just the way how it operates.
Exactly. And I don't think I'll need to do it, but as I'm looking at our maternity schedule, if you will, I'm thinking, oh, well, it'd be really convenient if I could do this client, at 3 o'clock instead of our 10 to 2, just on Mondays. But now when I do need to reach out for any type of accommodation for myself
Yeah.
from a client, that happens so rarely now that the clients are much more willing to, because in general, I don't need anything from them and I never have to apologize, regarding our timing or anything like that. And timing seems to be the number one issue for people. So that's my number one recommendation is just broaden it.
So are you going to be bringing on extra staff for whenever you step away, or how are you handling just the personnel issue?
At this time, I'm only needed 2 days a week, and that would be Tuesday and Thursday for a pack play group. And I'm currently deciding between temporarily allowing or not allowing, but I'm currently deciding between temporarily having some help from another business for 2 clients who prevent my staff from taking on those 2 days of work from me. Or what I think we'll end up doing, I think my husband will be joining me. Previously, he's been a silent partner who's only here to love on the dogs. But what I think we'll end up doing is having him work for me those 2 days a week. Our pack play that we run is at my house. So he is in group every day saying hi to everyone anyway. He's known these dogs for years because we board them and, our pack play program. So all I need to do is teach him the routes, the actual picking of the dogs up, and our scheduling. He knows pretty much all the clients already. So I think I'm going to have a little short-term business partner there.
Okay.
I'm excited. You guys know all about that, but I know nothing about what that looks like, so I'm a little scared.
Communication, just far away. That's all I can say. But that's really nice to have, again, that support and being able to lean on that, and that he has that experience. And so hopefully you can get his new T-shirts ordered and get him on the training program too with the company.
Yeah, I feel really good that aside from trying to create this resiliency and flexibility, the be prepared for anything mindset, and that's why I did that. All of these things that I've done is out of fear of being ready and always being able to show up to work no matter what. We've got an emergency policy. If all goes south, we will still show up and take the dogs on a free potty break, trying to be prepared for anything. And I've done all this out of fear, but now I'm saying, like, this is just the way we should be living our life, or I should anyway, because it takes so much pressure off of things. And I just like a deep breath of relief.
Yeah. And so you mentioned that you'll be stepping away, obviously, not just for the delivery, but also having some maternity leave built into this as well. How are you planning on using that time when you're away from the business and recovering and bonding with the baby?
I will be doing exactly that, recovering and bonding with the baby and nothing else. So one of the things that we've done in preparation for this, and, now expecting a baby, I've got all the more reason to kind of set these boundaries and set these new rules, because what client is going to argue with me if I'm not being unreasonable? We've got a really good, a big why now, if you will. So, my why being the baby, one of the things that we've done recently is really streamline our channels of communication. So previously I used to answer Facebook Messenger, Instagram DMs, not professionally monitored, but I would get back to clients quickly. Email, our Scout scheduling system, they can add notes for us on there, and text and phone call. And so I've reached out to all of our clients and said, hey, our staff are going to be helping manage the business phone while I'm away. And to help make life easier for them, I would like for them to only have to monitor one of these forms of communication. So please reach out via text only if you need us to respond within 48 hours. If you just want to send me cute pictures or something, feel free to email. And that has been a huge relief. Already, I'm like, why didn't I do this 2 years ago? This is how it's always going to be.
Yeah, reducing that method, that bombardment of input and channels to selecting it. It's a mental burden to remember. Oh, did I check Facebook Messenger today? Or where was that thing? And for me? It's very much like if it's not in text in our software or in an email, it just doesn't exist. Like I will forget about it, and then I'll be perusing in Facebook Messenger and go, oh, look, a message from 2 weeks ago. I need to get to that. So that's great that you can help streamline that, and just again, that's something that's going to help set up a lot more. There's that resiliency and streamlined nature of the business moving forward. Like these things aren't just sounds like they're not just a temporary thing. It's something that you're looking forward to them sticking around moving forward too.
Yeah, my thought is, why can't it be like that all the time? and it's going to be good. I think as business owners, a lot of the reason that we don't get help or we find that we can't outsource, some of these things with staff is, well, no one else is going to be able to do this the way that I do it. And if you have that train of thought, probably the way you're doing it is wrong. Of course, I can't expect someone else to manage 6 different avenues of speaking with clients throughout the day. So I probably shouldn't be doing it myself. And so, when you do the KISS method, if you will, the keep it simple, sweetie, you make it so that your work is manageable and you can outsource it. You can get help when you need. I can just hand the girls the phone and say, hey, please take this. For instance, while we're on this podcast, my husband has the phone because there's only one thing to do, and that's monitor text. And that keeps it easy,
Yeah, and keeps things moving along, and really does help it set up for that. It's not wholly reliant on one person, one individual person to accomplish everything, which when we're first starting out, that resides in us and going, if I want to make this as resilient as possible, what can I offboard so that if I don't show up, if I can't be there one day, something can still happen and the business can still function as it needs to.
Well, and here's a perfect example of this. It's not even just about streamlining things so that you can help so that others can help you, but so that you set yourself up for success. For instance, I was still maintaining a couple forms or a couple clients' communication through email because that's what they preferred. And I just never told them, hey, this doesn't really work for me. And a couple of weeks ago in early December, a client messaged, they asked to add on an extra day for the week. I said, yep, that sounds great. Let me know if you want to confirm. And they did email me back. But when they were emailing me back, we had a plumbing issue and our house flooded. So the last thing I was doing was checking my emails. I was just in treading water mode and answering texts and figuring out work scheduling. Ooh, I was not checking my emails. So a day later, I'm getting, calls in the afternoon. Why aren't you here for my dog? Why aren't you taking my dog? And I had to tuck my tail between my legs, apologize, and go through this whole big thing when that wasn't necessary. Wow. It was completely avoidable. We ask that clients manage their schedule, AKA add cancellation or make cancellations or add things through our scheduling portal. And because I allowed her to do it via email, historically, that's how we were doing it with her and making that exception because it was easier than setting the boundary. I set myself up for failure.
Oh gosh. No, that's a really
easy.
Yeah, of going, look, we make exceptions and we never fully understanding sometimes how that could, like, again, what could possibly go wrong? I'm just doing it this one time, and not being paranoid about our actions, but just realizing that when we simplify in this nature of business, communication, services, pricing, policies, it helps us stay consistent and helps make actions and behaviors much more predictable on both sides of the table between the client and ourselves.
Yeah, that's so true. And I'm going to continue to do this. I think everyone can take a little piece of that, regardless of whether you're family planning or planning for a vacation. That is helpful for every aspect of your life. I would love my business to run in such a way that if I just poof, like disappeared, the business would still be running the same. No one would know anything different. That's the way I want things. I know people love to have their hand in everything, and that's fantastic. And you still can, but for it to be sustainable, able to receive help, able to be resilient and withstand change or withstand emergency, you've got to create a plan for that. And the plan cannot be, for instance, me telling one of the employees, hey, you've got to check email though, because so-and-so and so-and-so like to communicate there. That's not a foolproof plan for managing and running your business. It's got to be simple and procedural,
Yeah, because if you're the only one who knows the super secret communication method or code or thing, formula, exactly. It's like, well, that doesn't help anybody coming in behind you or taking over or assisting you in helping. And then you have to do what just causes so much mental burden for me is the also ands of oh, well, this is exactly how we do this. But also sometimes we do this and sometimes there's this thing and oh yeah, there's this one client and you just keep adding on these addendums, which you're like, well, that's not how you do anything. Yeah. Sounds like you do this 17 different ways.
And you know this better than anyone. I'm a sole proprietor, so the only one I need to answer to for my disorganization is myself. But you and Megan work hand in hand, and I'm sure you each have some separate responsibilities, but you need to work as one brain and have one set of procedures that work. So yeah, tell me about that. You know all about that.
Well,
communication.
It is communication and taking the time to sit down and recognize, like, if I'm doing something, I try and keep that in mind of like, okay, right now I'm responsible for handling, front facing with a lot of clients and back end budgeting and running payroll and things like this. But if I'm seriously ill, Megan has to know how, where the login is and what buttons to click and how that process works. And likewise, she sets up all of the schedules and she does all of that in assigning things with our software. If she's sick or if she needs to step away for something, and I have to be able to fill that role. And that takes sitting down with one another. And yeah, sure, there's the, oh my goodness, why didn't you do it this way? And what is this? And blah, blah, but using that time for opportunity and growth and going, you're right. I didn't expect to ever have to teach this process to somebody else. That I need to embrace this as a strengthening opportunity to really help outline exactly what this is, and whether that's, oh well, why do you always and not being afraid to ask questions or encouraging the other person to ask questions when you sit down to show them that process of going, I'm going to show you how I do it. That does not mean it is the best way. It is how I do it. And write down your questions. Let me get through everything. And then let's go back and I'm actually going to ask for improvement in this process. So while they're learning the process, we can improve this at the same time when they're asking good questions.
I love all of that. And I can't stress enough. I feel like there's probably someone listening who thinks, I don't have employees. I don't have a business partner. I don't even have a way to get help. I don't have a husband. I don't have anyone that can step in. All of these things are still important for you. You have to set yourself up for success first and foremost. That's number one. And through following policies and procedures about why and how you do things, you can set yourself up for success. Even if you feel like, oh, well, no one's ever going to help me. It doesn't matter. No, you need to do it. And one day you might have help, and then you'll have, the handbook, the procedures to give them.
Or I know I am not the same person every day. I forget a lot of things. Sometimes I'm sick. Sometimes I'm really tired. Sometimes I'm performing these actions really early in the morning or really late at night, right before bed. And if it's not simple and straightforward, I will forget to do certain aspects. I will forget to flip the little tab or to say or to send the email in a certain way. And so it helps you because then you don't have to be burdened with all of the mental also ands and all of the every little exception that you have made and crafted. When it's simple, you are able to be more consistent. And so that it doesn't matter who's doing it. It doesn't matter when you're doing it or how you're feeling when you're doing it or when you're thinking about other things. It really simplifies that a lot for yourself and makes, again, that word consistency for just for yourself at the end of the day.
I love that the also ands,
Yeah.
the also ands, and if this, then that, eliminating as much of that as possible is helpful, even just with the communication piece where it's like, also, and I need to check the email to make sure I do this and blah, blah. And if they respond via email, I have to channel them to our scheduling program. If you can just streamline the way that you do these things, there's less things to keep you up at night. Now the things that keep me up at night are, I need to check my schedule requests. Do I have any text remaining? No, I can go to bed.
Right.
Not, is there a DM I need to respond to? Is there a Facebook thing I need to respond to? I'm really simplifying my responsibilities. So the rest is just extracurricular, but we've got the skeleton, the bones of what has to be done every day, and then all the excess that isn't important. And like you said, on a bad day or on a day where you're maybe feeling more spacey or you're more tired or you're distracted because you've got stuff going on, if you can just from there, manage your skeleton, manage your text, your emails, whatever that is for you, you've got a good baseline to work with that is forgiving as your life changes day to day.
I love that, Abagail. I'm so excited for everything that you're working on and for the arrival in early summer. Is that right? And so
yeah.
So there's just so many exciting things going on, and I know that there's still work to be done that you're focusing on. But I want to thank you for coming on and sharing all of that and walking us through why being simple and being focused on these things benefits us not just in the moment, but for preparing for unknowns in the future. And that goal of being resilient and consistent in everything that we do should really be a top priority for us in our businesses. I know you're about to go in a very busy season of your life. How's if people want to get in touch with you and follow along? What channels should they go about doing that to reach you?
Well, for fun and for help and for social networking, I'm a lot more available than for scheduling because I can't mess that up. It's a lot less pressure. You can reach out to us, particularly on Instagram, if you'd like to see what we're up to. And that's PACK, P-A-C-K, PALS, P-A-L-S, and NY as in New York. So PACK PALS NY at Instagram. That is also our at Gmail if you'd like to email. And that is also our website. And through our website, if you are interested in looking at some of the questions I ask, you can go on there and take my little new client form if you're interested. I did that for many people, and I've had that taken many times by people curious to see what helps us.
Yeah, perfect. And I'll have that in the show notes so people can just click right to that page too, so it'd be easy for them to find. Abagail, as always, thank you so much. I'm so appreciative of your time and of all of your wonderful wisdom that you've been sharing. Thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure and an honor. Thank you for having me. I said it last time and I'll say it again. This podcast helped me when I had no one and nothing regarding pet care, no one to talk to, no hope, no ideas, no Facebook group for camaraderie nothing. This podcast has been a godsend for me for years. I'm so appreciative of the work that you and Megan do, and it makes me really honored to be a part of that for others.
As a business, we should not think of resiliency as just being able to withstand tough times or withstand trials as we endure them. Instead, we should view resiliency as a process that makes us and our business stronger and better, whether that's through better policies, procedures, hiring and staff, or just internal and personal development that we go through over time, so that as that process of building resiliency, we build a better business, we build a stronger business so that year after year after year, we're able to handle, take on, endure, and actually be better than we were the year before. And whether that's intentionally, because you are starting a family, you need to step away, you have things come up where you're trying to hire or you're trying to refine your client list. Every one of those aspects in preparation for those is a process of building resiliency in your business. And we'd love to know how you build resiliency in yours, what your thoughts and process have been like. You can send that to feedback@petsitterconfessional.com. We want to thank today's sponsors, Timed Pet, and the Calming Pet Music YouTube channel. Check out the links in the show notes to learn more about both of them. We want to thank you so much for listening today, and we hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. We'll be back again soon.